It's Over Opinionated.
And welcome back to another episode of Over Opinionated. In today's episode, I will be talking about some state politics and a little bit of church affiliations with the United Methodist Church. Full disclosure ahead, the district matchup between Delegate Jason Ballard and challenger Jody Piles is taking place in House District 42, was the former 12th district before realignment, composing all of my former home county of Giles County, parts of Pulaski County, parts of Montgomery County, and the entire city of Radford. This is a very interesting race. In full disclosure, I volunteered for Jason Ballard's campaign 2 years ago when we took on and beat Chris Hurst in the old District 12. And I'm not best friends with Jason by any means, but I would consider myself friendly with Jason. I like Jason and I support him. I had plans to have him on this show, but things kind of fell through. But we will get Jason on the show hopefully soon. He plans to come on, and that will be great, just for a small little interview. But I gotta cover this race, and obviously I'm biased. Obviously it's over opinionated. I will be giving you some opinions, but hopefully I'll be giving you opinions gracefully. And this is not the only race we're going to talk about, or the only thing we're going to talk about when it comes to state politics. Because recently I got in a Twitter discussion with an independent candidate for state senator defending abortion. With that being said, I'll be reading you a couple articles, not all the way through, because this one article I need to read is a monster, but is very good. So I encourage you to go to Cardinal News and in their political section, the title is "A Former Aide to Senator Amanda Chase Aims to Oust Delegate Jason Ballard," from the Cardinal News, and I'll be picking up at the beginning. Republicans in Virginia's 42nd State House District will be making a decision Saturday between controversial incumbent Jason Ballard and self-described anti-establishment candidate Jody Piles at a Republican mass meeting held at New River Community College. In 2021, Ballard ran his first campaign in Virginia's 12th district, but is seeking re-election in the 42nd district based on new electoral lines drawn by the Supreme Court of Virginia. While the new district may not appear too altered on the electoral map, aside from the 42 now instead of it being the 12th, in reality its area demographic have greatly shifted. Like the old district, District 42 still comprises all of Giles County and the city of Radford, but with the different portions of neighboring counties Pulaski and Montgomery. The most significant change is the exclusion of the town of Blacksburg, where Ballard's previous opponent, Chris Hurst, came from and held a strong demographic base than anywhere else in the district, being Blacksburg. The former 12th district had a record of close races between the two political parties. Without the Democratic stronghold of Blacksburg, the district now has a strong Republican base, according to Virginia Public Access Project. 66.3% of voters in the district cast their ballot for Glenn Youngkin in the 2020 race for governor. The victorious Republican candidate on June 3rd will most likely go on to win the House seat in January, as there is no Democratic opponent in the district. Financially speaking, the odds are not in Piles' favor, as his campaign account held just $1,175 at the latest campaign finance report deadline on March 31st. According to VPAP, there is two ways of campaigning, he explained. One where you live your life and do good to people and build a reputation, and then when you run, people know who you are. Or the second is to hip in the pocket of the politician and the lobbyist to get the money. The people don't know who you are, so you spend all this money on radio, billboards, and yard signs to try to canvass the great area so people will see your name because they haven't heard of you before then. Am I saying I'm one of the most effective than the other? I guess we'll see June. I'll reread that sentence. Am I saying one's more effective than the other? I guess we'll see in June. Ballard, whose expenditures total over $1 million during his 2021 campaign, has raised over $100,000 so far. So far, most donations come from various Republican committees and other candidates from the party, according to VPAP. Dominion Energy contributed to $12,500 to the Delegate, and Appalachian Power donated a little over $2,000. Ballard has already spent roughly $60,000 toward campaigning, compared to Piles' $6, as VPAP reports. Piles has received no endorsements, but says he is more focused on receiving the endorsement of his constituents in the form of a vote. Ballard, on the other hand, has received key endorsements from fellow Republicans such as Governor Glenn Youngkin, Attorney General Jason Miyares, the National Rifle Association, and former Governor and Senator George Allen. It's humbling, but in the highlight, the fact is that they know I'm a dependable partner in what we're trying to achieve, said Ballard of his endorsements. Youngkin and Miyares, know that they can count on me, and I can count on them, and that's how we get things accomplished that the voters in my district want to get accomplished. The choice of the mass meeting to nominate a candidate has disgruntled a few Giles County Republicans who typically favor a traditional primary. A mass meeting permits everyone residing within the district to cast a vote, including Democrats, as long as they are registered to vote and sign a statement of intent promising to support the Republican nominee in the general election. A potential obstacle for voters is that it requires them to travel to the meeting site in order to vote and does not allow for any early or absentee voting, according to Zach Thompson, chairman of the Giles County Committee. Full disclosure, I know Zach personally, and I don't think there's much more to say about that. I just wanted to get that out there for my listeners. But it's definitely not a bad thing. I just want to say that when reporting this story and reading this comment. Regardless of the poor, and I'm starting to read the article again. Regardless of the poor choice of method, I'm confident residents will show up and Sure, we have a strong voice in Richmond with Delegate Ballard, said Thompson. The mass meeting may be one of the largest and most lopsided victories in Virginia this cycle. Governor Youngkin on down to school board members in all 42 in all the 42nd district counties have expressed their support for Delegate Ballard. Ballard also expressed his frustration with the party's choice and expulsion of various voting groups. Having a mass meeting does disenfranchise military members, said Ballard, or the elderly who can't make it to one central location, on-duty law enforcement officers, or nurses working a shift. So it's a little unfortunate that the party chose a mass meeting. Jody Piles, 40, being his age, Piles' resume is unique indeed. A country band musician, associate pastor, a martial arts instructor, and a body arm sales rep who says he's traveled the world rescuing young girls from sex trafficking. He is a former legislative aide to conservative firebrand State Senator Amanda Chase of Chesterfield County, and is looking to continue his representation in Richmond as a fighter and an advocate for the underdog, as he describes himself. That is where my heart is, said Piles, also an NRA firearms instructor. My heart is seeing lives change, rescuing people from these atrocities, and that is what has led me into the position of running for office, because I see spiraling as a commonwealth, spiraling as a nation, and I think it's time that people stand up and fight back. Listing countries such as Ukraine, Nicaragua, Palestine, and Cuba, where he has done his good deeds, Piles has also addressed local needs by throwing a free Christmas in downtown Pearisburg for the last 6 years, where he distributes essentials items and warm breakfasts to homeless individuals in the community. With his experience as a legislative aide, Piles feels quite prepared to return to Richmond, this time in a quite different role. Anyone who has ever been involved in politics, whether state or federal, knows that politicians are figureheads, said the candidate. The real work is done by the legislative aide. I already know this stuff, how to write and pass bills. He goes on 2 years as a legislator, but he has had a legislative aide. I've had the experience of the legislative aide, which is one that actually does the job, and I've got relationships with other legislative aides up there, and that's how you get the work done. He continued with Chase after his country band performed at a political rally she was attending. She became interested in the musician after catching wind of his background as a contract employee for International Protection and Alliances, internally providing some security services. Chase showed Piles the way around Richmond, teaching him how to write and present bills, and he woke up through the ranks and became her legislative aide. During this time, he attended the Stop the Steal rally in Washington, D.C. on January 6 alongside the senator. Piles stated that he did not set foot in the Capitol or engage in any illegal activities, simply admission first aid to injured people. So he just gave first aid to injured people, is what I'm saying. Despite spending several years in Richmond and his close affiliation with Chase, Piles proudly describes himself as not a politician and an anti-establishment candidate. Another factor that influenced his decision to run. He said he made several attempts to contact his legislator, Ballard regarding various issues over the past couple of years to no avail, so he decided to take matter into his own hands. So when people ask, what makes you think you're qualified? You know I'm a real person, explained Piles. I'm a business owner. I've experienced life. I know how businesses work. I've been successful and I have failed. I know how relationships work. I've been successful and I've failed. That's what makes someone, I think, qualified to be a representative. Truly represent people. You have to be the same as the people. You can't be untouchable. Despite frequently emphasizing the distinctions between him and his opponent, the two don't drastically differ on policies they consider most pressing. When it comes to abortion, both candidates assert that their belief in life at conception, though did not expand on any significant exemptions that they would support. While not having children of his own, I'm pausing right there. I'll continue reading. I think that this is somewhat of a difference between Delegate Ballard and Jody Piles. And I'm not saying anything awful against Jody, but I don't have children of my own, but I have two little sisters, and I'm 15 years older than my little sister Lily. I'm 12 years older than Rose, and I've spent time with them. Me and my other sister Faith really like a second group of parents to these young kids, and it changes the way you see things and changes the way you see the world. And I've been around Jason, and I've been around his family. I've seen him coach local sports. This is a good family man. He loves his family so much. He takes them everywhere that he knows is appropriate for them. He is involved in his church community, and he's getting his boys involved in church. I know that Jason's not perfect, because no one is perfect. But I don't have a complaint about that. When it comes to Jody not having any children, I'm not talking bad about Jody. I'm not saying that would make him a bad delegate. But Jody does not, I don't think Jody sees things in that light of being a family man and making the world better for his children. I'm not trying to attack him. I do think it's a difference. I'll get back to the article. While not having any children of his own, though a proud father of a German Shepherd, owning a dog's not the same thing. I'm making fun of the news article, not Jody. Piles holds strong views when it comes to parental rights and education and the role of public school systems in modeling the next generation. The parents should have the right to know what is being taught in the classroom, he said. Let's get rid of critical race theory junk and teach kids true education. Let's teach them how to read and teach them how to write. Why do we got kids that are more worried about gender, and we have a whole generation of confused about gender, but they can't write in cursive? Let me pause right there. Writing in cursive is kind of obsolete these days with the technology we have. And it's just so nitpicky. I'm sorry. Forgive me for that. Okay, I'll go back on to the quote. That stuff belongs to the parents. Let the school system focus on education. Parental rights and abortion are not the only issues where Piles plans to manufacture a firm conservative stance. He advocates for rolling back all gun restrictions and instituting a constitutional carry policy, as well as introducing term limits to those in public office, though he did not specify any length of time or practical governing position. Piles was born in Winston-Salem and spent most of his life in Mount Airy. After graduating from East Surrey High School, he attended a local community college for a couple years before transferring to Appalachia State University. From there, he was employed in 2003 by the Winston-Salem Police Department, but was fired in 2005 for insubordination and violating policies on sick leave and reporting to duty. According to an article on Raw Story that cited temporary letter provided by the city of Winston-Salem. Piles did not contradict the statement asked by Cardinal News, but pointed to some department internal issues that led to his departure. Okay, I'm stopping right there. I don't know what went on. I haven't read the Raw Story yet. Article. Insubordination never sounds good. Was he disobeying a direct command? Does Jody have a hard time listening to authority? I don't know. I'm just asking a question. Sick policy and leaving duty. I don't know. Listen, people can be wrongfully terminated, and if you're wrongfully terminated from McDonald's, I think it's a little bit different than the Winston-Salem Police Department. So this does not look great for Jody. With that being said, I'm gonna suspend any criticism there because I don't know the whole story. I'm just saying it doesn't look great. With that being said, I don't think it's going to be a big determining factor either way. I'm going to continue with the article. Then he relocated to Giles County, where he said his family organized to serve as a worship pastor for a church, one of the many hats Piles wears, though to keep from reoccurring his extensive resume, Piles simply calls himself an entrepreneur. I mean, wouldn't being a pastor be better than being an entrepreneur, being a spiritual shepherd? I mean, that's what I would want to be called. But regardless, I'll keep going. I'm making small criticisms, but that's not a hatred toward him. I'm going to keep going. I would preach on Sunday morning and get on an airplane and fly to another country, work all week, said Piles, then fly home, do a country concert, Friday night in a martial arts tournament, and on Sunday be back in the pulpit. People would never have a clue that I was gone. Okay, I'm trying to be nice. I mean, I'm trying to be nice, okay? If Jody wins the nomination, I'll support him. I think the most ridiculous thing in this article is that comment. He would preach on Sunday morning, get on an airplane, fly to another country, work all week, then fly home, do a country concert, a martial arts tournament, and on Saturday be back, and then be back on a pulpit and Sunday, and people would never know he was gone. First of all, was nothing happening in that church? Like, pastors stay pretty busy. A lot more, even associate pastors can be a lot busy. It's a lot more than a Sunday night, a Sunday morning service and a Sunday night service. He'd do a country concert, then he'd fly home and do a martial arts he'd go to another country, work all week. I mean, if he's doing that every week, you're probably going to die at like 25. You ain't going to make it long. Regardless, I'm not trying to be mean. There maybe been some weeks he did do that, but you ain't doing that very long, and living a healthy life. I mean, you need a teleporter to be Superman or something. And that's not me trying to be awful. I want to keep going. Though he may prefer to fly under the radar when it comes to his multiple professions, he did gather some attention on social media following a video he posted criticizing Black Lives Matter protests taking place near Radford University. "We're in a civil war," quote, said Piles in the video. "I think those idiots should be treated as terrorists. And you're out here destroying property, you're destroying businesses, you're destroying people's lives, and you should be treated as a terrorist. You should be treated as an attack on American soil, and we should handle it as such." After Cardinal News followed up with him about these remarks, Piles explained he did not mean that all who attended BLM rallies were terrorists. but that anyone acting unlawfully during the protest should be arrested, including those on January 6th storming of the Capitol. Okay, let's take a break right there. That's not a good comment. I know that he clarified with Cardinal News, but when you're a Republican, you have to know that the media is after you. And when you make those remarks, if you become a delegate, they could eat you up. I understand what he meant. I understand anybody that's breaking the law should be punished, no matter if they're left or the right. But he's got to be better. He's got to be better at what he's saying. I want to keep reading the article, and I apologize that this is me reading an article, but I think this is an important article from Cardinal News, and it's something that very interests me. I think it'll interest a lot of people, and state politics is important. No matter who wins this nomination, I'm supporting, and I gave you a full disclosure. I'm going to keep going. Jason Ballard, 53, that's his age. Ballard was recently able to wrap up on working on what he described his favorite piece of legislation at a church service on Sunday, May 21st, after presenting the Trout family with a signed bill and the pen Governor Youngkin used to enact Noah's Law. When a Clifford Forge woman was on trial for abducting a 2-year-old Noah Trout of Giles County in May of 2021, prosecutors discovered that abducting a minor was only a Class 5 felony in the state of Virginia's legal code. The equivalent of cashing a bad check, explained Ballard. The delegate proceeded to introduce House Bill 892, which now makes this a crime, a Class 2 felony with a punishment of 20 years. The boy was rescued, and Nancy Farley was sentenced earlier this year to 15 years. I remember when this happened. It was awful. It happened at Riverview Baptist Church they have a lot of good people there. Someone just came in the nursery, claimed to be this kid's relative or something, and took him. It was awful, and prayers were answered. I'm going to keep reading. It was proven closure. It provided closure for them and had a great deal of personal satisfaction to me to know I made a difference in their life, said Ballard. I want to continue doing these things. I want people to see I'm out there in the community. I want to keep our community safe. That's a little bit of a contrast. He wants Jason Ballard wants people to see that he's out there in the community and keeping it safe. I mean, if you have a kid playing Little League Baseball or something, you know who Jason Ballard is in Giles County. I don't like that because he's a coach. He gets involved in the sports programs and supports the school. He's in the church, in his church community. And that really contrasts what Jody Powell said about him reaching out and not being able to get in touch with Jason. Well, it's probably because that Jason knows that you're coming for him, and why would he let you just dog on him and trash him and when he's trying all this hard work of passing Noah's Law? I'm going to keep reading. Making the community a safer place, as well as helping with Youngkin's recent push on combating the opioid crisis, are two areas Ballard is focusing on should he return to Richmond. The reason I'm running for re-election is I want to continue the good work I've done over the last 2 years, he said. I've made good strides for the New River Valley, good strides for our community and Commonwealth. I want to go back to Richmond to continue work. Before he ran first time in 2021 on Senate Democrat incumbent Chris Hurst, Ballard served on the Pearisburg Town Council while running his own law firm, Haley, Ballard LLC. He graduated with a BA in political science and a BS in management from Concord College in 2001, and earned a law degree from West Virginia University. He was studying in Morgantown, West Virginia, when the plane struck the World Trade Center on September 11, 2001, inspiring him to join the U.S. Army 10th Mountain Division. After graduating in 2004, he went on to deploy on 2 tours on duty in Afghanistan and Iraq, then 2 other tours, the 160th Special Operations Advanced Regiment Coalition, known as Night Stalkers. During this time in the service, he was presented with multiple awards, a Bronze Star, 4 Medal Service Medals, and the Army. Well, I'll be honest with you, I can't pronounce half these medals. He's a war hero and a great person. I'm going to keep going. Ballard often profound points to voting history over the past couple of years when asked about his stance on various political topics, referring to a perfect record on defending life of the and protecting the unborn. I was the only legislator in the General Assembly that had a pro-Second Amendment, pro-privacy bill, Ballard said. That's a hard thing to do in a divided government, because I'm willing to work with the other side. I actually got that accomplishment done. Okay, I'm going to reread that. I was the only legislator in the entire General Assembly that had a pro-Second Amendment, pro-privacy bill passed, Ballard said. That's a hard thing to do in a divided government, but I'm willing to work with the other side. I actually got that accomplishment, and it was the only one. Okay. He's saying he's willing to work with the other side, even though he has disagreements with them when it comes to certain things. Can Jody do that? Our House, the House Republicans, we have the House. The Democrats have the state Senate, and then Governor Youngkin. It's just like the federal government, where Republicans have the House of Representatives and Democrats have the Senate, but then the president is Democrat. Sometimes you have to bite your tongue and do and work together for the other good on the other side of the aisle. Jason has that ability. Does Jody? Okay, I'm going to keep going. The soft-spoken Ballard seems to understand the value in taking a step back once in a while to observe and learn. Sometimes it is helpful to be quiet and just to learn and listen, he said about his first session as delegate. When you do that, you are a more effective legislator moving forward. Having secured the backing of many in the governor's office as well as local officials across this district and state, Ballard confidently looking ahead to return to the House. I've been a very proven legislator over the past 2 years, so when I go back to Richmond for the next session, that's what I'm going to continue to do, Ballard said. I'm going to continue to work with my colleagues. I'm going to get legislation across the finish line that benefits the New River Valley and my district and the Commonwealth as a whole. And I think you'll see that on June 3rd that the supporters who know that will show up, they will vote for me. And we are done reading that article. I said I wasn't going to read it all, and I apologize. I read it all. Something that might took y'all 5 minutes to read. We were here a while, so I apologize. If you live in District 42, please go to the mass meeting and vote for Jason Ballard. That's my over opinionated thing on that. Mass meeting being at New River Community College. Whoever wins the nomination has my support. I'm going to move on from that. And I'm going to read you a little Twitter discussion I had with a state Senate candidate on the other side of the state. Okay, I want to read you a discussion I had with an independent liberal candidate not seeking the Democrat nomination, but she is a left-leaning candidate, Monica Gary, for Virginia Senate District 27. I'm reading her tweet. It's very odd that the Democrats are backing and actually recruiting an anti-choice candidate for Senate District 27. Quotation marks. Where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Quotation mark. Don't tell me you're going to protect my right to choose when donating thousands to anti-choice politicians. I made the comment on her post, did you just quote a scripture to justify killing unborn babies? Very shameful. Now, some people would say, well, don't use the term killing, and that can promote violence. Listen, I don't want to promote violence. I believe in beating abortion with love and beating it with good legislation and beating it with education, that it is an unborn human being, and beating it every which way we can, most biblically. I don't want violence. Never. But I'm gonna call a spade a spade. Abortion is taking a human life. So I said, yeah, did you just quote a scripture to justify killing unborn babies? Very shameful. She responded, this is Monica, I'm not justifying abortion. I've had abortions and wouldn't wish it on anyone. I've counseled women considering abortion. I believe people need to make that decision with their doctor, trusted family, and spiritual advisors, and that the industry needs to reform. I commented, as a faith leader, you should know it's a sin and that you should repent of. And I just want to comment, she's a pastor. This woman's a pastor, and she's a faith leader. She responds, as a Christian, I've had my personal struggle with reconciling with God on that matter. It took many years to heal from abortion and to accept His grace. It is not our job to force our beliefs on others, but to take care of them. I responded, Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. used his faith in politics to help the Civil Rights Act of 1964. That was a good thing for us all. And what she was saying is, she was making a claim of separation of church and state, that it wasn't our right to force beliefs on them. When people say force beliefs on them, most of the time they're saying is, if you're a religious person on the right, don't force your beliefs on me. But Monica is going to force her beliefs of abortion on us. And you might say, well, you don't have to get an abortion. Your family members don't have to get an abortion. Yes, but I'm now forced to live in a world where you're killing unborn babies. Some of those babies that could be doctors, some of those babies that can be lawyers, and yeah, some of those babies that will be drug addicts. But guess what? They have a right to life. And I don't want to live in a world where we're killing unborn babies. And if I, as a Christian, believe that God will judge our country about how we treat other people, I'm sorry, I'm not separating my faith from that ballot box. And if I'm a delegate or if I'm a state senator, I'm not separating my faith from casting a vote. Why is it okay for secular people and left-wing people to force their values on you, but you're not allowed to force their values on them? Now, listen, we live in a democratic republic. We vote for our leaders through our convictions, and they should apply that into law. I'm not forcing you to do something by saying you can't have an abortion. Not really. How is that me for? I'm saying don't kill your baby. That's the same thing as saying you can't kill your toddler that has been born. Okay? If you want to use that word force, then we're all forced to do things. I'm forced to go to speed limit. I'm forced to pay my taxes. Everyone is forced to do certain things. But we vote for our representatives that make those laws. So let's vote for representatives that make good laws on abortion. It's real simple. But she said, after I mentioned the Reverend Martin Luther King, she said, agreed. Jesus showed us how to live, and that is with grace. It is the religious often he often corrected. Imagine how much less abortion there would be if the efforts to condemn became efforts to save and care for those who are in need. That is what we are called to do. I said, you're more than welcome on my podcast to discuss this issue and your campaign if you wish. She said, I'd love to send you an email. I've been talking to her over email, and I really hope to get her on the podcast, and I think we will. But I figured I'd cover this, and I'm going to say she's been very nice to me. I went on to make 2 more comments. I said, with that said, we must stand up for life, even unborn life. Just like we wouldn't let somebody be killed outside of the womb, we can't allow innocents to be killed inside the womb. Government has a moral obligation to protect the least of these. I'm sorry that you, and I mentioned this earlier, I'm sorry that you struggled with the aftermath of abortion. It is hard on many women, but there is healing and forgiveness in Jesus if we truly repent. And that's what I want to get to about this individual. Before I go on reading something from her campaign website, I just want to play you this clip from her campaign website. It's her little ad, and I'll just play this real quick.
Hi, my name is Monica Gary, and I serve on the Stafford County Board of Supervisors. I have something exciting to share with you today. Now, perhaps more than ever, our country is in need of leaders who will do the right thing, regardless of race, gender, religion, or even political affiliation. People are struggling, and we are tired of political games. We need real solutions. We don't need egos who are willing to sacrifice the peace in our homes on the altar of their next election. We need leaders who will bring our communities together. It is because of this that I am independent, and it is because I have been asked by the people I serve, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, that I'm running for the Virginia State Senate in the newly created 27th District. We have flipped a lot of tables in the last few years. It's time to reset the table and get back to work. There is a better way. I know what it looks like. Follow me at monicagary.com.
And before I get to the spiritual side of things, just looking at it politically, she's really impressed me. Her website is very professional. She was very cordial to me and nice to me on Twitter, although we have a disagreement and we've had a little bit of a conversation on email. Maybe we can get her up here on the podcast. And I disagree with her policies, but I respect her. She beat a Republican to get on the Board of Supervisors in Stafford County. And she's an elected official. She's a pastor as well, and I want to get into that. But we disagree with this, and you might say, why would you have her on the show? It's important to listen to people you disagree with sometimes. So I'll have any elected official or any candidate, left, right, or center, Republican, Democrat, or independent, on the show if they're nice and cordial to me. And we're able to set it up. I'll have anybody on the show. I might not agree with them, and we might go back and forth, but hopefully it'll be in a loving way. But I just want to address a few things real quick. I would also like to play you just one more clip. Here's a clip from Fox 5, Washington, D.C.
From stripper to pastor to politician, an unusual route to the Stafford County Board of Supervisors, but one local leader now has her eyes set on the state level. Tisha Lewis, live from Stafford tonight with more.
Fox 5 has learned that Stafford County resident Monica Gary, a board member as well, is launching her bid for state senator this week, representing the newly created Senate District 27 with at least 150,000 residents, including right here in Stafford.
We need unity and we need solutions. There's been so much division and so much vitriol, and we can't find a way forward to really serve people because we're just not communicating in the government anymore. There's so much that needs to be done that isn't being done to serve the people. And I really pride myself on being able to do that. One, as an independent, and I am running independent for the Senate as well, to be able to cross those lines and build bridges and find a way forward to serve people.
The former stripper turned pastor turned politician plans to launch her launch video publicly this week. There's no incumbent for the newly created Senate District 27, and Monica Gary says she's running as an independent, as you just heard. The mother of 7 says both the Republican and Democratic parties reached out to her, wanting her to represent their parties. She initially had plans to start a church, but then the coronavirus pandemic derailed those plans. Even so, it's Gary's atypical journey into politics that sets her apart.
Good for her. I mean, I don't know what her politics are, but if I vote for her, it won't be because of that, or I won't vote for her because of that.
Monica Gary goes on to tell us that it was the unrest after George Floyd's death that sparked her interest in local politics, and then constituents asking her to run for this newly created district that prompted her interest in state Senate. Back to you.
So as a politician, she's been successful so far. But this is way bigger than politics. This woman's a pastor. And I want to read something. It's not the fact that she was a former stripper, repented of her sin, and got saved. I want to read you something off of her website. And I'm not questioning her salvation, but something's not adding up here. I want to read something off of her campaign website. More than likely, you know that I'm a former stripper. It's not something I'm ashamed of. Far from it. I'm grateful for that experience, the strong bonds I've formed with my coworkers, for the lessons I have learned. Come on now. You're not ashamed of your experiences. Far from it. I mean, this is something that you should be repentant of. I've had sins before in my life that I'm not proud of. And if someone confronted me and said, you did this, and I did do that, I would say, I did, but I was wrong, and I repented of that. I wouldn't say that she's basically saying I'm unrepentant of being a stripper. It reminds me of the song that, I'm in love with a stripper. Then she became my pastor, and then she became my state senator. Oh my goodness. Unique. She hadn't become a state senator yet, but so unique. Far left, I believe, and I don't say that hatefully, supporter of abortion, LGBT rights, and a former stripper. I got some Bible verses that contradict that pretty quickly, and with my audience, I don't even know if I need to give them. If I get to sit down and have a one-on-one with her, we'll definitely talk about her being a former stripper, that she's not ashamed of that, being a pastor, being a candidate, and being pro-choice. And when they say pro-choice, they mean what I think it is. It's obvious they're pro-abortion. I'm for a lot of choices. I'm for the choice of adoption. I'm for the choice of abstinence. Even though I know that's hard, it's still possible. I'm for the choice of contraceptives, if it's preventative contraceptives like birth control and condoms, not after the deed's already been done. But I'm for adoption, if I haven't said that already. But I'm not for killing a baby. That's what's wrong. And I don't know if she's saved or not, but I would call for her to repent and ask Jesus to forgive her, and say, I'm sorry, I was wrong for doing this, and I'm wrong for abortion, and advocating for these policies, and I'm wrong for that I wasn't ashamed of being a stripper. There's a difference in having a guilt and shame over your heart all your life, and there's a difference in being repentant of something. But still, I would love her to come on the show. I believe we'll try to set something up. And I did want to get to one more topic regarding the United Methodist Church. But before I get to the UMC, listen, I am going to bring up some Bible verses when I talk about abortion and reasons I'll be pro-life. That being said, if I'm ever in a debate with someone that is just political, if they're an atheist and they're pro-choice, I don't bring up the argument of the Bible because they don't believe the Bible. I bring up an argument that this is a life beginning from conception. And like I said, I plan on having a why I'm pro-life and have a secular reason and a spiritual reason. With that being said, I want to move on to why the UMC, the United Methodist Church, is having a breakup. I want to read you a little bit from an article from the website is called The Week. The breakup of the United Methodist Church. By the end of 2023, the United Methodist Church will be significantly less united, torn asunder by a host of issues, most importantly how to address same-sex marriage and gay clergy. Schism over the LGBTQ issue as well tattered part of the mainline Protestant denomination, and the United Methodists have taken some lessons from the Episcopal, Presbyterian, and Lutheran. Here's a look at how the breakup of the United Methodist Church, why it matters, where it fits into American Christianity. Why is this happening with the United Methodist Church? The United Methodists have been more or less clergy disagreeing about gay rights since the 1970s, but the issue took a head in 2019 at a UMC General Conference. That year, the theological conservative camp, aided by social conservative United Methodists from the African, outflanking the moderates and the liberals, and pushed through a resolution affirming the UMC's ban on same-sex weddings and the orientation of self-endowed practicing homosexual clergies. The General Conference also approved a new law, passage 255.3 of the Book of Discipline, offering UMC churches a pathway out of the United Methodist Church with their church building and property if they get approved from 2/3 of the congregation, sign off of their regional governing body, and pay their fair share of clergy pensions, liabilities, and 2 years of appropriations of the larger denomination. That temporary exit expires at the end of 2023. So if your congregation can't meet all those ends by the end of 2023, they are stuck in the United Methodist. And the United Methodist, as of right now, still is against gay marriage, but it will eventually turn to gay marriage with all these churches leaving, I think. I'm going to keep reading. An ideological, diverse group of UMC leaders crafted a more enduring plan for an advanced divorce, a protocol of reconcile through grace and separation in January 2020. How big is the schism? I'm scrolling down. The full extent won't be known to the end of 2023, but between 2019 and December 2020, over 2,000 Methodist churches successfully defiliated from the UMC, mostly in the South. That's a lot of churches. 2,000. Now the UMC is a huge denomination. My old pastor grew up in a UMC church, United Methodist Church, Craig Whitaker, and it's just sad to see, because you have the liberals pushing for gay rights, and listen, I believe gay people have rights, but when it comes to the church, we gotta obey the Bible, and the Bible is very specific. What it says a marriage is that it's between a man and a woman. And I know if John Wesley was alive today, the founder of Methodism, he would flip out. He started a prayer chapel, and they called themselves the Methodist. John Wesley would freak out. I'm going to play you a little video, just a little bit, and then we will wrap things up.
United Methodist Church is experiencing its greatest upheaval since it formed in 1968 as the merger of the Methodist Church and the Evangelical United Brethren. In this video, I'm going to give you the latest updates on the split that the denomination is experiencing. I'll give you a quick refresher so you understand what we're talking about, but if you want a more detailed picture of what is happening and why, check out the link in the description and watch my video earlier this year on that subject. The United Methodist Church, or UMC, is a mainline denomination in the U.S. and also around the world. Some denominations, like the Southern Baptist Convention, are just in the United States, but the UMC isn't. Churches worldwide can influence the decisions made at the general conferences. A special conference was called in 2019 over the issue of homosexuality, and although the majority of U.S. churches wanted to change the existing UMC position, stating that the practice of homosexuality is incompatible with Christian teaching, the vote of the worldwide church decided to leave it in. However, although this is the official position, many of the bishops of the church and annual conferences, which are like regions, have not been enforcing the position. In the end, because of this issue and others like the view of the authority of the Bible, a large number of UMC churches, often called the traditionalists, decided they wanted to leave. And the 2019 special conference also passed a rule that allows them to do so relatively simply until the end of 2023 and keep their property. Now, when I say a large number of UMC churches wanted to leave, it's all relative. The UMC is the largest mainline Protestant denomination in the USA and the third largest religious group altogether after the Catholic Church and Southern Baptist Convention. It's definitely a minority that want to leave, but when you're as big as the UMC, even a minority can be pretty big. In the U.S. in 2020, there were 30,543 congregations in the United Methodist Church, and last year alone, over 1,800 of them left. In April of this year, 264 churches in the Holston Conference in East Tennessee and Virginia left, 30% of the conference's congregations. 55 in Oklahoma left, and on May 14, 67 churches left the Arkansas Conference. Most, but not all of the churches are joining a new denomination, the Global Methodist Church, which formed in May of 2022. The GMC will not allow practicing homosexuals to be clergy or permit clergy to perform same-sex marriages. These things have been happening in the UMC, and the expectation is that they will be officially allowed in the future, since the UMC is going to be more liberal after these churches leave. Now
Yeah, and that's the sad thing, and that video comes from Ready to Harvest, and they give a lot of updates about what churches believe, but I think it's our job to pray for them and love them. But that is it from me. I hope y'all have a great week. Jesus is King. Stay updated, stay praying, and I will see you back here soon.